You're listening to Synergy to Synastry, the podcast where two corporate girlies called to follow their intuition take you on a journey of self-exploration through metaphysical modalities.
I'm Christine, intuitive coach and clairvoyant.
And I'm Renee, psychic intuitive and astrologer.
We're excited that you're here and honored to be your spiritual guides. If you enjoy this podcast, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen. It helps listeners find our show, plus it automatically enters you into our raffles to win a free psychic reading.
Now, let's get into the episode.
Surprise! We have an incredibly special bonus episode for you today.
Yeah, you're probably feeling a little caught off guard by us dropping a full-length episode like a ninja, all stealth-like, on a Tuesday when we usually drop on Saturdays.
But it's not random at all. It's actually divine timing. In our last episode, we talked about books, and today's guest contacted us to come on the podcast to discuss her new book with our listeners.
Really incredible and divine timing, and this should be no surprise given that our guest today is someone who taught us about paying attention to signs, synchronicities, and developing our own intuition. So without further ado, Christine, could you introduce our guest?
It would be my absolute pleasure. Deganit Nuur, DACM, is a world-renowned spiritual teacher, celebrity, clairvoyant intuitive, acupuncturist, and resident healer at the Four Seasons NYC and LA. Writer and speaker. Founder of Nuurvana Clairvoyant Healing, Nuur has been named one of the top 15 intuitives worldwide by Gwyneth Paltrow's publication Goop, and has been featured on The Today Show, Good Morning America, and written up in the New York Times, Forbes, Vogue, and Vanity Fair, amongst many other reputable publications. Of course, Renee and I know her as our teacher, mentor, guide, guru, all of the things. Deganit, welcome to the podcast. We can't believe you're here. We're so excited you're here.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud. I'm so honored. I'm so elated. Thank you so much for having me.
I don't even know where to begin because I'm like so excited. I think when I first met Deganit, it was when we were like interviewing for the program. I met her and I was like starstruck. And I think I told you this. You were reading me and you were like, do you have any questions? And I was like, I can't believe we're face to face, like via Zoom, and like panicked. You are the most down-to-earth, kind-hearted person with like an incredible way of teaching all of these things that you know that changed our lives.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit in our premiere episode of the podcast, but I had received a reading from a medium who instructed me to find an intuitive school. And I looked around and the Nuurvana website came up. This is before developing my intuition, just had the gut feeling like, I think it's supposed to be this one. And I was like, oh, let me sleep on it. I'll come back to it. And I was like, no, I think it is. And I started going to the monthly calls. You were guiding us through a past life meditation. I was crying, sharing what happened. It was so visceral. I didn't go into the program thinking that was what I was going to get out of it. And so because I had such a potent experience, how nice and supportive you were, invalidating, holding space for me, when the opportunity came up and I looked at the benefits and the support, I was like, I'm someone who likes structure. Christine knows she likes it too. I want to have a learning course. I want something I can follow. I want to have deadlines. I want to keep up with it. There's yoga in it. There's meditations. And I was like, this is wonderful. So it was really such a great experience. And I know I personally go back to some of the activations and meditations that you recorded on a semi-regular basis and use them in my practices, especially the Spirit Council one. I use that one all the time. It really was a huge turning point and in our self-discovery and spiritual development journeys, obviously, because that's why we're here.
I'm so honored. I did not expect to like start this so emotional, but thank you so much for that reflection. And yeah, like we didn't even know each other. Neither of you were like actually clients or students. I commend you for being so courageous and taking that leap of faith. What an honor to have up row seats to your transformation process and to watch the transformation continue.
So I know we've gone on and on about how much we love you, but maybe in your words, tell us a little bit about yourself so that, the people can get to know you in the way that we know you. How did you discover your intuition? How did you end up helping people discover theirs? Anything else you want to share?
Yeah, so I'm currently wearing my favorite shirt that I've had 26 years. It's a Harry Potter one. And I was thinking about it when I put it on. I clearly have always been into magic. I've been meditating since I was 17, right? But I was so closeted at the time I got this shirt. I was 20. I was pre-dental. Like I was reading Louise Hay and Don Miguel Ruiz and Eckhart Tolle and like doing the opposite of Power of Now. And all my energy was caught up in the future and my identity was caught up in my productivity and my income and relationship status and all these things that like I really don't care about anymore. A couple of years after I get the shirt, I got rejected from dental school. Rejection is protection or redirection. It was like the best thing that's ever happened to me. The immigrant workaholic, my trauma response has definitely been to like overgive and people please and all of that. So like I just doubled down on dentistry when I got rejected from dental school, and I was like dental assisting and I was teaching dental admissions test courses, and I was also serving because I needed money. So I was like waiting tables, and I was just like broken and sad, and I just felt like such a loser and a failure, and like the rest of my life was just going to be horrible because like if I couldn't even get into grad school, well, there goes any chance of happiness. So when I stumbled upon a psychic teacher who told me I was not crazy, but I was intuitive, I didn't know about my sensitivities at the time and that they could be a superpower. I was definitely like skeptical, understatement, years after giving readings, but desperate enough to try anything to just feel better. So the tools, I just wrote a book with 7 of the tools that Renee and Christine know from the program and practice. First, I just started practicing the tools to just like feel better, and they worked, and I did feel better. So I kept practicing them, and then like one class led to another, and then classes were all about developing your intuition, but I wasn't even thinking of that. Like I was just thinking I got to feel better, like I wasn't trying to give myself or anyone readings, but that was like the next organic path of the process. And it turns out I loved it and I was really good at it. The readings were just so easy for me in a way dentistry never was, in a way like nothing else ever was. Like they made so much sense. They made me so happy that I fought it. My very colonized, conditioned mind thought that because they came so naturally to me and I was having such a good time, that it was all delusion and fake and I could never really get paid for it. And turns out I make way more doing this than I ever would have through dentistry. And it is easy, and every day it gets better and more fun and more awe-inspiring, and it keeps blowing my mind. It was like so hard coming out of the spiritual closet. And now I feel like I just want to shout it from the rooftops because we're all psychic. And maybe this isn't your career path, but you at least deserve to follow whatever it is instead of forcing yourself to believe that you actually like what you do when you don't.
Your journey is so amazing because you found a teacher that helped you establish your gifts and everything that you went through. And now Renee and I are on that similar path. We're in the middle of a very similar journey. And I think our listenership is listening because they're also on a very similar journey.
Sidebar for the listener, acupuncture. It's a different modality I think people are aware of. You see it a little bit in pop culture, but could you just speak to what is it in case people are interested and they might want to look into it for a local practitioner?
It is an energy-based medicine rooted in Taoism, which is simply an observation of nature, all based on empirical evidence. If we take 1,000 people and we poke them all over here and all of their headaches go away, chances are this point treats headaches. First, it was discovered one point at a time, and it was like a fisherman accidentally stabbed himself in the toe before fishing poles. It was like spears, like 5,000 years ago. But he felt better. And then he started stabbing all his friends and they all felt better. So that's when they like started poking each other and they're like, what does this one do? What is that? There's channels and pathways, and this group of points seems to do the same thing. Now that we have Western science, we can kind of see how the acupuncture channels might follow the nervous system pathways. We kind of have a better understanding of the science of how it works, but the proof is in the pudding. It just works. That's why it's been around and that's why it's spread, is because it's effective. Change is the only constant. And so in acupuncture, there's no such thing as perfection. If you think of the yin yang symbol, there's like a little black piece in the white swirly, and there's a white piece in the black swirly, because everything is everything. And there's always yin within yang and yang within yin. There's like no absolutes in nature. You're not going to be perfect. If you're feeling great today, enjoy it, because you might be pissed tomorrow. It's just nature. And in acupuncture, we lose 5 pounds every summer, we gain 5 pounds every winter. Working with the elements and working with the flows of nature, you are nature becoming aware of itself. When we are in balance and harmony, we get to live out our pure potential and we feel the happiest. But it does take effort to maintain balance and harmony, but it's a whole lot easier to like maintain it as that preventative medicine. It's found in most hospitals. I was doing like a lot of fertility acupuncture. If you get acupuncture right before and right after you get IVF, it's insane how effective it can be. It does treat basically everything. It's mental, emotional stuff, physical pains, bone disease, to like autoimmune stuff, digestive stuff, hormones.
Do you have any recommendations or words of encouragement for people who have a fear of needles?
Ooh, good one. Yeah, I had a fear of needles going into it. As a practitioner, I'm extra sensitive to it. And I personally stay in the room with the person the entire time. First of all, like they're the size of a strand of hair. The first question most acupuncturists get asked is, does it hurt? I want to say no, but some points are more uncomfortable. You'll feel them more. Most points you won't even feel. I would go for like a more spirit-based acupuncturist. 5-element acupuncture tends to be pretty gentle. Some practitioners will stimulate the point gently and not even pierce the skin. There's acupressure, there's lasers that stimulate the point. There's pediatric acupuncturists actually are probably the best at being patient with needle phobic folks. The reason the practitioner matters is because they're a conduit for the medicine. If you're feeling your practitioner, if you're feeling your teacher, you get the medicine, you get the wisdom, it's yours. 2 practitioners could do the same point protocol. And if you're enjoying one better than the other, you might feel profound results with the one you enjoy and like kind of nothing at all from the other one. Some practitioners are a little bit more aggressive. There's different theories. And there's this understanding that chi is a little bit painful and dull, achy. I've always had really great results with my sessions without the dull, achy sensations. Pick your practitioner to be like-minded in terms of it doesn't have to hurt.
When I was little and you would have to go for shots, the doctors would have to hold me down. And my mom would actually always have my little brother go first because I was such a terror with needles. And yet I like love the benefits of acupuncture. So for any of the listeners out there who are scared of needles, exactly what Deganit said, have a consultation with the acupuncturist first. Let them know you're scared of needles. How do they handle it? And Deganit mentioned some of them are chi focused. Maybe that's a good question to ask them, because I have had points where like the needle goes in and it is tender. So it doesn't feel like you're getting stabbed, but it almost feels like a bruise, like you've just knocked your hand into something. But again, like if you have a fear of needles, that's going to jar you. And then also breathing through the needles. And I think if you have a good practitioner, they'll breathe with you. They'll tell you like, okay, it's going in 3, 2, 1, and you can breathe. But once the needles are in, it doesn't hurt. So you just have to stay still. Don't look at the needles. Just like close your eyes and relax. Maybe if talking to you helps or being dead quiet helps, I would talk to the practitioner first. With my PCOS, acupuncture has just been fantastic. I can't wait to like start up another round of it.
So we had talked to Lisa, also Be Light program alum, on our podcast in season 1 about her work as a Reiki master. So I'm curious, during an acupuncture session, either as the recipient or the practitioner, what is that experience like for someone that is intuitive?
Oh my God, I love this question so much. I had already been giving readings for like 4 years by the time I became an acupuncturist, right? So I had that down. But then once I started touching people, feeling their pulses, feeling their bodies for like the chi, I started getting migraines when I didn't clear enough. Metal is a transmitter. So like as I'm needling you, I'm touching the metal, you're touching the metal, things are being released and they could land in me, right? And so anticipate that. Like use your separation tool, tool 3 of the book, and also ground it out, tool 2 of the book. And I do have a story about this. So like 2 of my friends were swapping sessions. So one was like a personal trainer, one's an acupuncturist. I'm getting texts from the both of them. The acupuncturist is like, oh my God, so and so is like 20 minutes late. I am so pissed. I would never do this to her. And then the other one starts texting me after the session, like, hey, this is the first time I've ever left acupuncture feeling worse. Can that happen? Is that a thing? I didn't want to tell this person, oh yeah, like your practitioner totally like, was in her own way. Like she had too much ego in the game and so many projections and biases projected all over this person instead of like clearing herself. You know, we talk about neutrality in the course and like meeting her patient where she was at, whether that meant only an intake and no acupuncture or no intake, just get on the table so you can have 20 minutes needle time. She had the power to reschedule for when she could better be present as a practitioner. I personally feel like it was irresponsible of her to just be in an emotional state and provide a service that requires neutrality, connection, and presence. She couldn't fully see her patient to connect to her patient. We address this in the book, but sometimes you could be sitting next to somebody on the subway and pick up their funk because you are an intuitive, you are an empath. Even if I don't know you, if I feel like there's a wound anywhere, I have to address it. I have to like triage it. The tools have helped me kind of like conserve my energy and be a well-functioning ecosystem of one that contributes to the greater macrocosm instead of like being codependent and in enmeshment.
I love the framing as an ecosystem of one. The reason that that resonates in particular is because on one hand, like there's so much you can explore within yourself. So to refer to an individual as being an ecosystem acknowledges how multifaceted we are, how we're always growing and changing. I am not someone who subscribes to the idea that people can never change. People can be unwilling to change, but I view it more that it's about how we choose to evolve. Christine and I, we love learning. We want new information. We want to understand ourselves, others, history, present, future. So when you have that type of mindset, you're willing to shift what's in your little ecosystem. You're going to let these plants die and grow these other ones. There's so much work you can do just within yourself.
Yeah.
And in today's society, when we're seeing the world around us seemingly on fire, sometimes literally, we just take a breath and come back to our little ecosystem and do the healing there because other people will see it. We can make actual change in the world in some ways by just taking care of our own garden. We talk about boundaries a lot. Christine and I, like on a personal level and on this podcast, because I mean, astrologically, it's infused in our charts, things that we have to learn and develop, especially me. But, you know, Christine as well. But it's like she almost like has more of them, and then I have to learn some of that. So I'm trying to learn from Christine. How can I have the better boundaries? I know they're important and I tell people they're important, but then I don't always do them.
We mirror each other. We don't listen to each other. I'm guessing Christine never was like, all right, Renee, it's time to like beef up your band. Like I'm guessing you were just like, oh, I want what she's got. So I'm gonna get better at this.
Right. Christine schedules her week following the energy of each of the days, and she's doing her tech Shabbat. And I've known that she's done some of this. I finally made the point of changing my schedule. And so I have been sitting down every Monday. I write out, okay, these are the things I'm going to do that align with the days of the week. Christine was never telling me, you need to work on your boundaries. I've been walking around for years going, I need to work on my boundaries. Like I'm so hyper aware of it. Watching someone who can be a model for that and say, well, let me just like try that and see if that works. I needed to be at the point where I was like, okay, I have to make this adjustment. Is everything in my life perfect? No, I still have so many things I have to tweak.
I have learned from Renee. She's right. I have too many boundaries. I would be a hermit if it was okay. But I recently started my Human Design Blueprint Level 2 class, and there's a whole community. And I was like, Renee would reach out to people who she likes. So I started doing it, and I made like a bunch of new friends, and I was like, oh my God. So like Renee's teaching me how to be more vulnerable. And at the same time, I'm teaching Renee how to have boundaries. It's really beautiful. And like, again, how amazing that your course brought us together.
This is also a reflection of manifesting. Like, you are being more social and doing more outreach, not because you're forcing yourself, but you're going with the flow. You enjoyed what Renee modeled, and it was easy for you to mimic. Vice versa, Renee's been working on her boundaries since before she met you, but she manifested this easy, flowy invitation to execute a few boundaries. I just love that you both are planning for, getting out of your comfort zone. And then when the invitation arrived, like, you manifested it.
So cool.
Christine, we manifested each other.
I really think we did. And again, it speaks to relationships and the people in our lives. And I just feel like the relationships that we have model what we need to be working on.
The Course in Miracles, there's a lesson in it that says all encounters are holy encounters. We're all messengers of love. Are you present enough to see the love coming through? Have you offered yourself the flexibility and space to follow the love, even if it doesn't look like you thought it would?
Oh my God, it's so wise. And like going back to like, it doesn't look like you thought it would. Before we started all of this, I always thought if I had the job, if I had the money, if I had the husband, the house, that was what success would feel like. And now I have none of that, right? Like I've been interviewing for the same job for about, I don't know, 10 months now. Like it's actually insane. I am living off of my savings still. I'm trying to build a business, which obviously is going to take time. I don't have a romantic partner right now, and I'm honestly not even super interested in one. And yet I'm the happiest I've ever been. My friendships and my family connections are so deep and rich. I find myself being happy about like fruit. Like I'm like, oh my God, look how beautiful this strawberry is. And that to me is
our
like
ancestors were.
Exactly. And I feel like that's what these tools help you get back to. It clears away all the nonsense, and it allows you to like go inside yourself and realize that everything you needed was here the whole time. You just needed a pretty strawberry and a sunset.
There are people eating pretty strawberries and having epic sunsets and just wondering, when are they going to kiss me? Or just not actually connected to these beautiful moments in their lives. So I love that. I love it.
We're taking a very quick pause in our conversation with Deganit to share the details for her new book, which you're going to hear more about in the rest of today's episode.
Deganit's brand new book, which she co-authored with Tim Murphy, a cultural anthropologist and fellow clairvoyant healer, is called Imagine: 7 Visualizations for Greater Clarity, Confidence, and Calm.
It's available now in the US in hardcover, paperback, and audiobook formats wherever you get your books. International copies will be dropping in 2026.
We can't wait to get our hands on a copy and start reading. Learning from Deganit has changed our lives, facilitated our meeting, and all the things. And we're so excited to see and hear what learning these intuitive tools will do to transform your life as well.
Happy reading!
What do you imagine the experiences that like readers of this book are going to have? I'm thinking of like the person who picks it up or like their friend recommends it and they like have no idea what to expect.
To me, it feels like pulling a string, and it might just be somewhat of a gateway drug into like the spiritual realm. Definitely gonna come out of it with greater self-love and self-compassion and recognizing there was never anything wrong with them. As far as practicing the tools, it might be more of like, cool, I have this information now, but I'm good, I don't need it. And then something will happen and they're really, really getting into the book, converted for real, Gift of desperation is what they call it in 12-step. And that's how I found these tools, is I was desperate as fuck. So if they can't go that deep with it the first time, I think the invitation is to view it as kind of like a handbook that you can call on anytime.
It's the guidebook for life that we keep asking for.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a guidebook for my life. Yeah. Yeah. In the very intro of the book, we say Louis Spotswick put all this information together, and his plan was to share it far and wide because it was never his. In the like, he rolled around in the 70s. Like, these are like ancient tools that have existed for thousands of years that he just noticed practiced globally, and he totally like simplified them, consolidated them, and was like, this is the overlap. And then he taught a person who taught a person who taught me. And then I teach a person, and y'all are teaching other people. Like, this is where at Nuurvana, we say world peace starts with inner peace. So simple, you could miss it. But truly, like, we're seeing the ripple effect in action right now. It's beautiful and like fun.
The amount of people that I have met in 2025 who have the exact same timeline as us for their spiritual awakening is kind of mind-boggling. Or like who were previously in corporate and left the same timeline as us within the last year to 2 years. So there is something that is going on where people are shifting and moving into this space. And that we as people, and you especially, people that have been there for some time, you're allowing others to come with you, having a space that people can feel safe in. And that's what we hope to do with this podcast as well. We're trying to demystify a lot. Like, how can we ground it for the average person, the beginner who's cosmically curious, as we like to say, but doesn't even really know where to start? So the more people that are out there, like with your book, like what we're doing here, what so many others are doing, their businesses, their services, their socials, creating spaces where people can engage with, entertain these ideas, these concepts, start opening up, feeling safe and comfortable that they have people they can go to ask questions, they have resources. It's allowing all of us to help with that collective shift to bring more and more people along so that we can approach each other with love and light and compassion, wanting to work together and collaborate and be more connected to ourselves. Because when we can introspect, when we can connect to spirit team, intuition, we can live in a much more aligned way.
Oh, I love it.
The next question I do want to ask you is, what tools did you put in this book that other people can use to start to undo everything that's been placed on them?
They're in a different order than you learned them in the Be Light program. We spend 6 weeks aligning, and then 6 weeks creating, and then 6 weeks destroying, and then sustain is only 4 weeks on purpose. But so with this, it's like a little bit of each of those 4 sections in 7 tools. So the first one is your golden sun. It's crazy to me how many people don't know what their preferences are. I feel like I've just been so sensitive, even in the midst of self-denial. My feelings are just so big. Like, know when I'm comfortable and not comfortable. And anyway, so the first tool just like helps you figure out who you are, really, and like helps you get your power back. And then there's like a tool that helps you let go of unwanted energies, let go of stress, the grounding cord. My favorite is the popping balloons, the creation destruction, which for me is great when frustrated, when it feels like everything's in your way, you can't get there fast enough. There's like a little bit of a tool for everything. The last tool is the manifestation one, because that's like everyone's favorite. In the program, you don't learn that until month 3 or 4. I love that you say cosmically curious. We've been using the term underskilled intuitive. We're all born intuitive. It's just whether or not you've built the skill set or not. And the manifestation tool is, the proof is in the pudding, and you can see the results a little bit more. The other tools will help you feel better, but there's not always like immediate tangible results. And we're pretty good at gaslighting ourselves. But like, if you're manifesting a new pair of socks or whatever, and you get the socks tomorrow, it's going to build your confidence in both the work, both these like tools that have existed again for thousands of years and have been used in this way. But it also helps build your confidence in yourself as the magician and as a powerful force of nature.
So just to zero in on the manifestation piece a little bit, earlier this season, we did an episode on planning versus manifesting. So Christine and I, as pretty type A people, we love a schedule, we love a to-do list, thinking in the long term versus the short term, and how do we get to that end goal? And so we had this whole discussion and kind of debate between the two of us around how do you manifest and include or not include planning. How do you differentiate the two of them? How do you integrate the two of them? So I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I actually have a real-time example of this. This venue that I wanted to do a book launch in New York got flooded. The venue that I was really excited for in LA, it's like June and they're already out of budget, and this is like a five-star hotel. The efforts of my planning have at times seem fruitless, I'm going to be honest. And then yesterday I was asked to write about Taylor Swift's aura for Vogue. This is also manifesting, and being in Vogue is going to help with this book launch more than an event that 50 people could show up to at like a luxury place, right? The second rule is give zero fucks, letting go of outcome. So you can still put your effort in it. You can still say, I think I want to go there, so I'm going to fill up the gas tank. But if like the scenic route starts calling you, and proves to actually be the feeling and the sensation that you were looking for. If I was in planning mode, I could have been like, no, I'm working on my book launch and I had this time reserved for XYZ. I saw the miracle. So I think like it just like helps you get out of tunnel vision. It's almost like when Google Maps like redirects you or is like, we found a faster route. When you're manifesting, it's like being open to the faster route. When you're strictly planning, it's like, I don't know the faster route. That's an area of town I've never been to before. I can't do that. There's too many unknown factors. You know, you put in the destination and you just keep clicking yes to the faster route.
I love how you explain this. And I'm thinking about it now. The order that you put the tools in your book makes so much sense. Not to bring up my trip. My flight got canceled to come home. As much as I love being in Italy, like I was really excited to come home and see my cats. So I was like, oh, this sucks. What's going to happen? And then all of a sudden I was attracting these like negative people around me. And I was like, oh, no, we have to do something. So I stood in the line waiting for my ticket and I golden sun myself. I called all my energy back. I grounded myself. I grounded the airport. I got neutral and I let go of everything. And I was like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But what I would love is for everything to be covered, a credit, and to get a direct flight home. Everything else, whatever.
Added bonus.
I got more than I could have imagined. And again, this is Italy in August. It's Ferragosto. The entire country is shut down. The C team is working. I was negotiating in Italian. The woman was so nice. She managed to find me a flight out of Venice that was direct, earlier than I had expected, put me up in the most beautiful hotel with like a waterfall and a garden. Dinner was covered. Breakfast was covered. I was traveling with the nicest people. And I was like, oh, that could have been such a nightmare. And as soon as I did all the tools, all the negative people around me in line somehow disappeared.
And how long did it take you to run through the tools?
Maybe like 5 minutes. It really wasn't that long.
Yeah. And I want to say it's only 5 minutes because you like sat in meditation and practiced and like made a practice out of it. Now you can just call on it when you're like, I haven't taken a deep breath in a while. Let me just do that. You know?
Yeah, it's such a practice. So I encourage the listeners, as you read this book, because I'm sure all of you are going to read it, as you read it, use the tools as a practice and know that like they're going to get stronger. And eventually you're going to be in a situation where you're stressed out. And instead of doing your typical patterns, you're going to be like, oh my God, I read about something. Let me just try it.
I think that's so relatable for the average person. Not always about like you're trying to physically go somewhere. We just happen to have that as a metaphor and that as a real example. It's the shift in perspective. It's taking the blinders off. It's reframing. It's turning it on its head. It's having you go inward for that pause. And maybe the pause is 30 seconds. You just connecting to your breath, doing the reset. It's mantra work. It's some of these visualization and energy tools. If you have them at your disposal, it's free to do it.
Yeah.
It takes just a few moments. You might as well do that reset for yourself, and then you'll make a different choice. You'll respond differently to the annoying people in line.
And be patient with yourself, because especially if you're new, it is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Think about how long it took for you to be wired the way you are. So it's going to take a while for you to like rewire yourself.
And I do want to say, I'm not the type of person who like wants to put in hours of effort. So even like when we did the class, like I would like listen to our classes while I was walking. I would do the meditations falling asleep. Like if you're just like short for time, you just have to show up.
Sometimes the meditation for the average person could just be the absence of doing 40 things. pausing, not listening to anything, not talking to anybody. Let me not bring my phone with me to play a podcast while I'm in the shower. Monotasking, literally sitting by yourself for just a few minutes. And sometimes that just gives you the recharge that you need. We were talking about this in a reading recently, actually. Sometimes at night, I'll be brushing my teeth and I'll just walk around in circles in my bathroom. I'll just walk around and just like kind of be processing and like thinking about my day, trying to clear some of it out, the most important thing for me to do tomorrow. And I'm just giving myself that space of those couple minutes while my mechanical toothbrush is going.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to put it in a book, and who were you hoping to target with the book?
This work is for everyone, and I feel like the best way to take care of yourself is preventable health, fresh air, long walks, meditation, eating right, drinking water. We're all spirits having a human experience, so I just want spirituality to be like accessible for all. And there's also different types of learners. But the book is an opportunity to go at your own pace. Even if you can't afford the book, it's going to be available in public libraries. We just want to impact as many lives as possible. Because again, world peace starts with inner peace. So as many people are feeling the inner peace, the better and the greater the ripple effect. My audience, I feel like, has forever been kids, if I'm being honest. So sometimes parents, just because like I want them to teach the tools to their kids. I really love the Dalai Lama quote where he says, if every 8-year-old were to learn how to meditate, we'd have world peace within, I'm going to like cry, but I totally believe we'd have world peace within one generation. And actually before this call, I was teaching 3 kids about their little energy tools. Kids get it. I'd rather prevent a lifetime of biases and associations and trauma. I know myself as an adult, I have worked on healing my childhood trauma. The trauma was like a blip, but like, oh my God, my devotion to healing it has been like a lifelong journey. Preventing some trauma instead of constantly like putting out fires. Maybe let's just like learn a different way of being. So yeah, please gift this book to every kid you know, or practice it because they mimic you and they'll learn it.
I'm so happy you said that, because my goddaughter, I just spent the weekend with her. In the morning when I wake up, I do stretches and I do a little bit of meditation just to like get my day going. So I thought she was sleeping, but when I finished, she was like, what was that you were doing? I told her about it. She's like, can I do it with you? So I'm like, yeah. So we did a little meditation, a little stretching, and skincare in the morning. And she wanted to do it every morning. She's 6. She's going to learn how to manage her emotions in a way that I didn't until I was like 30.
They love it. It is so beautiful.
They do. One last question before we head into some fun stuff. I wonder if you've seen more light workers or more people leaning into their gifts after 2020 as opposed to before.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. I remember in 2020, it's terrible because it was a pandemic, but my first thought was fucking finally. The questions my clients were asking changed to more existential, what we value. I feel like our value system is still adjusting. You see more digital nomads. You see more people taking a little bit more slow. There's definitely been a greater increase in Nuurvana and our services, our programs. More people are journey focused rather than destination focused.
Are we entering a world where we're bringing back those spiritual gifts again, where we're entering the flow and getting rid of forced productivity habits? And in that case, will we look back and be like, oh my God, I can't believe like the Industrial Revolution happened. Like that was so like anti to who we are as humans. And, you know, we have wildflower lawns again. Every practitioner we speak to feels like 2020 in its devastation also offered us a huge gift to pivot. Very cool. So sorry guys, the brain's waking up. She's got a lot of thoughts. Okay, fun questions. If you could read one book over and over for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Maybe because I just referenced Louise Hay, it would probably be that one. And that might be more for the transference of energy. I'm hanging with a friend.
Our second fun question is, if aliens landed on Earth tomorrow and offered to take you back to their planet, would you go?
Totally. I'm good here. Like, I'm done.
We've talked about this a little bit on the podcast in relation to some things that come up in the coursework that we did with you about past lives. I was listening to an interview recently. Kesha has been making the rounds. It might have been on Monica Lewinsky's podcast, but she was talking about, I'm convinced this is my last life. And so I'm trying to live with that in mind. I don't want to get reincarnated again. I think some of the underlying feeling for people behind this alien question, the same as people saying, I want to go to Mars or go to the moon or go to another planet, is I'm just done with what's happening right now. But,
Sure.
If we're thinking about it in a different way with that like death and rebirth, if we were to be reincarnated, or maybe we've already been reincarnated a bunch of times, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I love living from your deathbed, living every day as your last. So I am hearing a little bit of that. And I love that philosophy, whether you think it's your first lifetime or your last lifetime. I know for me, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. And I think if you think it's your last lifetime, chances it's not. Like, I feel like when you're close to the end, there's like zero ego. So there's zero self and there's zero, even that concept, but what's a lifetime and who cares? I'll sometimes get a finance bro in. I want to achieve enlightenment. How many hours a day do I have to meditate to get there? And it's like, you've already lost. It's just like such a Western linear binary approach to something that's so expansive and ever changing. If you knew the subject matter, it's not a question. Is that Every effort of yours to get there, that is planning versus manifesting. The plan is actually working against you.
If this was your last lifetime and you weren't reincarnating again, I see more of like the Dalai Lama or the Buddha reaching that level of enlightenment. So when you said that, Renee, I was like, I feel like that's something a very young soul would say. And I don't know how old my soul is, but I certainly know I have not reached enlightenment yet. So
there you go. Yeah, it feels like an immature understanding of how it works. That's a great way of putting it.
And to be clear, I love you, Kesha. So
using her as a muse for the question.
My favorite part of this podcast is I assume all of the celebrities we're talking about are listening. If I'm talking about someone in my personal life, I'm like, they don't listen. But Taylor Swift is definitely listening to this podcast.
Entering her orange era.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Okay, so when Vogue asked me to write about it, I did talk about the paradigm shift and orange being all about creativity and sensitivity and feelings and emotions and relationships. And I just love that we're entering this collective orange era. Just be vulnerable, be transparent, feel your feelings, be here.
On that note, where can our listeners find your book so they can start their own journey?
If you go to nuurvana.com/imagine, we're having a manifestation ceremony on September 10th. There's options to order the book, but there's also options to get in on the perks. You'll get an email that explains all the perks, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to participate in.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for everybody. For the listener, we'll link everything in the show notes where you can find the book, where you can find Deganit.
I'm definitely a writer. I'm a creative. I love to connect in like a deep, meaningful way. So I'm way better at the newsletter. I get a little bit more personal, more vulnerable. Whereas on Instagram, I feel a little bit more limited, where it's like, do these 5 things and I won't tell you why or how they work, but do them. I personally avoid Instagram, and hopefully soon I'll get an assistant that'll do that for me. The newsletter is like a whole meal, and the Instagram is like bite-sized pieces, little snacks.
We love food on this podcast, so
keep
talking about it.
Yeah, totally. So in Instagram, it's also Nuurvana, Nuurvana.
If you read Deganit's book and you're open to going deeper and you want to do more of the work that Renee and I have been doing, please reach out to us. The partnership is still going. You'll save $500 on your tuition. As Renee and I have been saying since we started this podcast, it's literally life-changing.
This was such a treat.
even though this is a bonus episode, we're still going to have our regularly scheduled dream segment. I will start. I picked this dream in part because I've had so many iterations of something very, very similar. And I thought, well, this is the perfect one to select, and also kind of relevant. It worked out for this conversation with Deganit, who is a teacher to us. And the dream that I picked was a school dream. So in this dream, I was in the front row, but on the far side. And there was a special guest speaker who was coming in and doing a presentation. And while she was talking, I was filling out a worksheet, which also is super common in my dreams. She was taking a pause in her presentation, and she made some sort of comment to me, kind of calling me out because she thought I wasn't listening. My response was super calm. Like I was like, no, I was listening. I was writing stuff down at the same time. So I was just kind of like, whatever. One of my high school friends was a fan of hers. I was looking forward to this because my friend had told me about you and blah, blah, blah. It seemed like it was smoothed over. And then she came over and she had some different stacks of paper. And it was one of those things that we used to do in school where you give the paper to the people on the end of the row and then they like pass to the left. And then while that was happening, a different person that I went to high school with came up behind me and started telling me this story. So it's kind of like a Barbie doll. And she was holding it up and was telling me how she had cut its hair, rough cut. And then she was thinking, well, maybe I'm going to have to get a wig for it if I ever want to change the hairstyle. So somewhere in there, the dream wrapped up. If you have a dream where you are in a classroom, it suggests that you could be seeking knowledge or that you're being encouraged to pay attention to the subject matter. So like, what was the teacher talking about? Maybe you're receiving a message from your spirit team and they're using that person as the vehicle to get that information to you. The fact that I was filling out a worksheet, the closest match I could get to that is doing homework. That can represent placing pressure on yourself to be a taskmaster or complete tasks or get things done, or a preoccupation with making mistakes or being under scrutiny because you know it's going to be graded. You're going to be handing that assignment in. If you are scolded at all in a dream, it could represent or be a vehicle for understanding what's going on in your conscience, judgments, standards that you're setting for yourself, telling a story. When you are doing that in a dream, that could be simply that you are sharing memories. So it could be unlocking memories, thinking about paying attention to your memories, your sense of recall. It could have to do with wanting to be heard or believed, or you're asserting that because you are using your voice. Dolls, I went with Barbie doll as an interpretation. Those can represent idealized standards, perfection, superficiality, or meeting expectations. And then finally, a bad haircut or cutting too much hair off can represent a loss of power or freedom or an undesirable change. You want to reverse it, but you can't necessarily take it back. It was focusing on learning about and reshaping my high standards and expectations, the pressure I put on myself to accomplish things. And it feels like my guides want me to pay attention to this message, which I'm obviously aware of, but it's like hitting me over the head again. Also, signs that I'm missing. I was paying attention, but like, was I paying my full attention because I was doing the worksheet while the woman was talking? Or the fact that people kept coming up to me and saying things? It's like I was trying to get alerted. And or acknowledgement of materialism or living in more of a hustle mindset and how that's detracting from taking my power fully back, because I have been doing that by reclaiming my voice and using it. We are leading into the fall eclipse season, and I had released on my social a card spread that I had channeled at the beginning of the year. When I tell you that the cards that I pulled are saying the exact same thing that came up in this dream, releasing Capricorn energy of acting and doing things all the time, leaning into trusting divine timing and trusting the process and listening to and connecting spiritually for that very first Pisces North Node eclipse. For the South Node eclipse in Virgo, what came through was letting go of resistance to releasing control, which again fits in the same area that we're talking about. It's the standards, it's the expectations, having things a certain way, or the perfection, so that I can move forward with having more of a reset in celebrating my wins, honoring myself, connecting to my intuition. So even though I was pulling from different decks of different cards and I was using a very specific channeled card spread, it was still pulling on what days prior I had actually dreamed about in just an interpreted way. If anybody is interested in using that, definitely head over to my socials. But also, if you want a breakdown for the 2025 eclipse season, the one that already happened, but also the one that is upcoming, you can go back to episode 1 of season 2 called 2025 Eclipses and listen to that breakdown.
A lot of the dreams I'm having as well are about me advocating for myself in past relationships or with past friends or in past situations where I'm just standing up for myself. And it's second nature. And I like the way that it happened in your dream, because that's what's happening in my dreams. And I should point out, Renee has a Virgo moon and I have, 4 Virgo placements. God bless. A lot is happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if for both of us, we come back for season 3 and we're completely different people, just because of the energy that we're already feeling leading into this season. And I know there are a lot of you out there who are probably feeling the same. So any of you with Virgo placements, Pisces placements, or even Sagittarius and Gemini, let's look at all the mutable signs. We are so interested in what you're feeling right now and what you're feeling in the next few months. So please email us and let us know, because we're kind of going through the same thing. We can start like a mutable signs therapy group or something.
A support group.
But now for the meat of the conversation. Renee and I were talking about what dreams to use for this episode. I was scanning my list and I saw the first line saying, I was reading a woman with Renee and Deganit was guiding us. It fits. So we're going to go with this one. The woman was trying to figure out which boy to adopt. There was one boy with blonde hair and the other one with black hair. The child saying their new name or what their new name would be. And I heard Adrienne Reynolds. Them saying their own name would help them figure out who it feels most at home for. She didn't have to make a decision right now. And the woman was so appreciative that I said that. And her husband was reading a book called 8 Days. And he was saying that it wasn't a coincidence that they also had to wait 8 days to meet the boys to make that decision. And the goal for them wasn't to decide before going into the meeting, but allowing the moment to unfold and letting that be an experience that informs itself. I had a very intense dream that there was an active shooter and my parents were involved. And I woke up around like 4 a.m.-ish in Italy, obviously texting my parents, "Are you okay? I had a weird dream." What was interesting is that in real life at this time, there was a 3.0 earthquake in New Jersey, which is close to where my parents live. The earthquake did not affect them, but in this eclipse portal that we're entering, I'm having a lot of dreams about, I don't want to say natural disasters, but like weather phenomena. So right now, Hurricane Erin is making her way up the east coast of the United States. And I texted Renee the other day because I was like, this is so weird. I had another weather-related dream that for the Northeast, for our area, the hurricane was going to be half as intense as predicted or half as destructive as predicted. Back to the signs and symbols of this reading I was doing with Renee and Deganit in my dream. The cool thing about this that links the earthquake is I immediately Googled 8 Days when I woke up, and the first thing that popped up was a book titled 8 Days, A Story of Haiti, and the book is about an earthquake and natural disasters. And I'm like, oh my God, Spirit, way to like tie everything in, because that's what prompted me also to look into like what is happening. It wasn't an active shooter that was targeting my parents, but it was this earthquake. And this is what we have learned from Deganit. When we read people, we ask them to say their name because your name is a source of power. It calls you back to who you are. It was interesting that they were going to have these 2 boys say a name and see who it was a better fit for. I feel like the new name represents our new identity. Am I a person who speaks up for themselves now, or am I a person who still keeps everything held inside? What feels better? And moving in that direction rather than overthinking it. The name Adrienne Reynolds, I Googled, and I didn't get much out of it because the way I had spelt it, ADrianReynolds, didn't really turn up anything that triggered a feeling in me like the book 8 Days did. But if this resonates for any of you listeners, please reach out, and let us know. But The dreams are going to get weird, and I can't wait to see what happens.
For today's collective reading, Christine and I are going to be foregoing providing that for the listener, but don't fret. It's because we are handing it over to the person who taught us how to read, Deganit. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
I am so excited. Let's see what comes through. It is my intention with this reading to benefit and empower all beings involved on our paths to personal growth, self-discovery, self-love, self-acceptance, and self-actualization. It's like I'm seeing somebody coming out to a park and rolling out a picnic blanket, and the blanket just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, and it looks like red and white checkered. Like it feels like we're sitting down for an actual picnic, and I'm seeing a picnic basket, but the blanket just keeps going out and it's turning into like a circle around this person, almost like you would expect this to turn into a hot air balloon or something. So now the circle is just like moving, 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 and it just keeps spreading. And then the picnic basket. So finally, the circle is taking up the entire park. This feels like Central Park, and it feels like this red and white picnic is the entire park is invited, and this person is opening up the picnic basket, and it feels very much like Mary Poppins bag, and it's like, here's non-alcoholic beverages, here's the wine, here's juice boxes. First, all these beverages. Is there meaning to that? Yes. First, liquid. First, follow the flow. First, flow always first. Feelings first. Okay. And then there's all the meat and potatoes and all this food that comes out of this basket. This basket is infinite for as long for as it's like the basket is magical and knows exactly how many people are here and provides to the limitations of the picnic. Oh, I got it. We're better together and we're better at accountability. And it feels like whoever this main character is that I'm watching or whatever has been working on their prosperity or something. They couldn't provide a picnic basket full of this much food for one for themselves. But now that they're feeding all of Central Park, all of a sudden there's like this overflow of food. And it feels like when you recognize that you have exactly what you need, gratitude begets gratitude. It gives you more to be grateful for. So that's a little bit of what this message is about. But it also just feels like having a witness, having accountability, sharing the meal with someone, celebrating with someone. Don't forego the celebratory process of the picnic. When this person was rolling out the picnic blanket, it did feel like there was like a crowd watching. And because it was a circle blanket, like the crowd almost like had to move out of the way and like get farther and farther from the person to like get the whole thing set up. But then they all like rushed the blanket, and now there's just like a lovely picnic. So it feels like it's okay to go slow. We do best in community. We do best when witnessed. It does build your confidence to be witnessed, for your efforts to be witnessed. Like if you can find an accountability buddy that is, you're working on the plan, but none of it's coming to fruition. If somebody could be like, I see your efforts, like fuck the outcome or the destination. I noticed you watered, these plants over here. No, they're not growing, but that's not your business. Like you watered them and I saw that, and I saw how you, took care of those weeds and whatever. So it feels like we could all use a witness this week. Choose wisely. And if you'd like to be witnessed for your efforts, that's amazing. The real invitation is to be witnessed for all that you have to like celebrate and share. You're already okay. Whatever you're manifesting, it may just be the icing on the cake, but you've already got the cake. And it feels like, so if there could be a witness witnessing you eating your cake, or somebody that you could just like brag to, feels really nice for this week.
The fact that we've invited you on and you're also reading in the same vein of food, it's hysterical.
In a lot of our discussion today, we were thinking about the individual versus what's happening in society. And I think it's the perfect button on the end, because we have created, manifested, we have something that we've achieved. Yeah. Rather than being in a mindset where we are seeking validation, because that can lead to a whole list of, dysfunctional behaviors, making sure that others recognize what we've done. And there's so much more power in that. And it's not coming from any feeling of lack. And I think that's really important as a milestone. So if that's where people are at this week, then that's a big win.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more, the resources we used to prepare for this episode are listed in the show notes.
If you're curious to develop your intuition, we've partnered with the Nuurvana Be Light program to give our listeners a $500 discount on tuition fees. Email us for more details and we'll connect you with the founder, Deganit Nuur.
Want to connect with us? You can reach me, Christine, at Channeled by Christine with 1 L on Instagram.
And you can reach me, Renee, at _read by Renee, or connect with us both via email at synergytosynastry@gmail.com.
Keep your spirit curious and your aura sparkling.
We'll see you when the stars next align.
Deganit's brand new book, which she co-authored with Tim Murray.
Murphy.
What did I say?
Murray. When you said Murray, my brain immediately went to?
What?
The Wiggles. Because one of the Wiggles is named Murray. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you. I was listening to a podcast. It's the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast. And they mentioned that guy, the Eurovision guy from the same episode I'm talking about with the Wiggles. They mentioned him and his espresso song or whatever it is. What is it called? Macchiato one. They mentioned that in the episode. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Christine's guy.
Fucking amazing.
It came up. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so let me try this again. Murphy.
In hardcover in the US, sorry, I need to repeat this. I was distracted by a thought in my head, which was, we'll have to go back and read the whole thing. So then I was talking and my brain wasn't where my mouth was. Okay.
But I totally get that.
Wait, oh my gosh, I just remembered again. I was listening to a podcast and someone described their brain as being in a blender.
Thank you.